Robin Horsley.
Who are you?
I'm Rey.
Rey who?
Rey Skywalker.
Just the Hitchens.
I think that's a contemptible statement, and I think everyone who applauded it should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves.
There is a scene in the somehow Return of Palpatine which shows Rey, the last Jedi, flying Luke Skywalker's X-Wing, wearing Luke's helmet, carrying Luke's lightsaber, and journeying to defeat a villain Luke already killed long ago. Everything in this scene is completely dependent on the characters, plot, ideas, and aesthetics of the original trilogy. Disney's sole contribution is to replace the man that used to pilot the ship with a woman. This scene perfectly encapsulates the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy. Quick note, I will mostly be referring to the somehow Return of Palpatine as ROP. Until yesterday, I had never properly watched The Rise of Palpatine. When the movie came out, I downloaded a shitty cam copy and had it playing in the background while I attended to more important matters. When I rewatched The Force Awakens for the first time in a decade, I was shocked at how boring it was, because I remembered it being at least somewhat entertaining. When I rewatched The Last Jedi, I was surprised by how, contrary to its reputation as highly subversive, the movie is actually extremely conventional and perfectly in line with what was set up in The Force Awakens. When I finally watched The Rise of Palpatine, nothing surprised me. The movie really is as bad as its reputation suggests. ROP is an atrocious mess. A torrential spew of low-effort nostalgia bait, clunky exposition, corny humour, contrived set pieces, and boring characters. Yet even amidst the mire of audiovisual slime, there are extreme low points, moments of sheer ignominy, sinkholes in the hellscape. Having no more original characters left to massacre, Disney turned its claws upon John Williams' score, reducing his incredible Star Wars canon to a cheesy montage of Star Wars greatest hits. The only halfway entertaining character Disney created, Kylo Ren, is turned into a tedious simp. Lando is used as a nostalgia bait plot device. The level of plot contrivance is so extreme that it makes the movie come off as a parody of lazy Hollywood blockbuster style writing. We'll get into all these problems and many more, but to start, let's examine the most obviously dreadful aspect of the somehow Return of Palpatine, the pacing. This movie's pacing is so frantic, it feels like a live-action cartoon. Like The Force Awakens, the movie never shuts up, never stops to take a breath. The dynamic intensity never drops below a 9, and it is fucking migraine-inducing. Here is a typical example. Rey has a Force vision while training, but instead of giving the audience time to absorb the moment, there is no need for this dramatic beat. Rey helping her droid achieves nothing in terms of plot or characterization. This plot beat exists solely to keep the dynamic intensity of the movie high. Stuff always has to be happening all the time. I had to coin a noun to describe this kind of scene transition because there are so many of them. So I'll be calling it a JJ jolt because they are designed to jolt the movie back into action when it is in danger of shutting the fuck up for 10 seconds. Here's another instance of a JJ jolt. This is a good chance to build mystery. Let Rey examine these drawings for 20 seconds, maybe discover an image that builds lore and connects to the plot later in the movie, instead of just, here is a picture of the MacGuffin. But instead of that,
Rey! Vulcan's back!
Here's another JJ jolt.
This fleet, what is it, a gift? What is he asking for?
From Disney's perspective, the danger here is that the scene might settle into something resembling politics or world building, and it does come perilously close to beginning an intelligent conversation which reveals something of the galaxy's geopolitical state. Disney doesn't like that because there were politics in the prequels, and everyone hates the prequels, right? So JJ tosses a JJ jolt into the scene to shut the conversation down and move along to next thing.
What is he asking for in return? Does that
The constant JJ jolts prevent scenes from ending naturally. Instead, a scene is interrupted by the next scene, which is interrupted by the next, and so forth. This creates a clunky, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens style of storytelling, like a 5-year-old attempting to relate his weekend at Legoland. This is why it is so difficult to remember anything that happens in the movie, because the plot is a series of barely connected non sequiturs constantly interrupting each other. When the Rey crew land in the generic system, they discover an alien festival, a perfect opportunity for the movie to rest so the audience can absorb the vibe of the festival. Instead, yap, yap, yap.
What is this?
The Aki Festival of the Ancestors. This celebration occurs.
I have edited this scene to remove the yap yap. See if you prefer my edit or the original. JJ makes the same mistake in this scene that he made in The Force Awakens when Rey, Han, and a tag-along land on Cantina Knockoff Planet.
Solo, why are we here again?
Get your droid on a clean ship.
Clean.
You think it was luck that Chewie and I found the Falcon?
The ROP festival scene ends not in an organic fashion, but because it is interrupted by the next scene with another JJ jolt. Rey sees a ship belonging to a plot device in the generic desert and says, "I've seen that ship before." Rey could approach the ship, examine it, and have a flashback to the time she's seen it. The movie could stop shoving yap yap and dumb explosions at the viewer for half a minute, which would be a nice break from the hyperspeed pacing. A long chase scene has just ended. This is the perfect moment to take a breath. Or this could happen. After the crew watch Rey find the Sith dagger, C-3PO is explaining that he can't translate it. Instead of simply letting the scene end, there's another JJ jolt to kick the movie back into high gear because it's been almost 3 minutes since something blew up.
I believe the rule was passed by the Senate of the Old Republic.
In this scene, JJ uses a JJ jolt to prevent one of his many mystery boxes from being unwrapped.
The day my parents left, they were on that ship.
Are you sure?
There's an income.
I could go on pointing these JJ jolts out, but since they are in literally every scene, I will instead finish by saying, whoa, is that 90s Winona Ryder? Bro, was she always that hot? Now let's examine the Leia scenes. Carrie Fisher died shortly after The Last Jedi finished principal photography. Her scenes in ROP are built around unused footage from The Last Jedi, and these scenes are heinous. You're probably familiar with the concept of the uncanny valley in CGI, when a face is almost human in appearance but not quite, and the result is a feeling of deep unease in the viewer. The Leia scenes drag the viewer into what I call the emotional uncanny valley. Her dialogue exchanges feel wrong. The writers had to construct Leia's scenes around the words and expressions she uses in the unused footage from The Last Jedi. They don't have much to work with, and the result is horribly unnatural exchanges in which Leia says almost nothing or is presented with information which elicits many questions, none of which she asks, or a situation in which Leia gives a response no one would ever give.
Falcon's not responding.
You have to say it like that.
Like what?
Do me a personal favor. Be optimistic.
These scenes are the clunkiest in the sequel trilogy. They do nothing to advance the plot and serve only as a depressing reminder that our beloved princess is dead. I concede that the filmmakers were drinking from a poisoned chalice with the Leia scenes, and that their hearts may have been in the right place. They were trying to create a nice send-off for Carrie Fisher, but these concessions do not render the results of their efforts any less horrifying. Leia does not ask any plot-relevant questions or gives suggestions or orders. She never interacts naturally with the story or characters and plays no part in driving the plot, which is extremely unnatural given that she is the head of the Resistance and is Rey's Jedi Master. The impression you get watching Leia in ROP is that she's a crazy old lady with dementia who just hangs around the rebel base.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
There are also scenes in which Leia's face is uncannily still because it's been CGI'd onto a body double. In this scene, Rey does a major exposition dump about Exegol and tells Leia she's going there to confront Palpatine. The only word Leia says in the entire scene is
No.
The scene ends abruptly when Rey tells Leia she's going to fight Palpy, and that's it. Leia doesn't respond. Usually, a scene is jarring because of what is in it. This is a rare example of a scene being jarring because of what it lacks: coherent, natural responses from Leia. The Leia scenes are so bad that they might as well have just dubbed in any of her previous lines, offered no explanation as to what she means, and let the audience figure it out for themselves.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder! The Imperial Senate will not still for this. Into the garbage, flyboy!
Yes, Master.
And why, in the name of all that is incestuous, did the Resistance retain Leia as Supreme Commander after she led them to total defeat? This is like if the Confederacy had retained John Bell Hood in command of the Army of Tennessee after he led them to 5 consecutive crushing defeats against Sherman, all of which were the result of ill-advised frontal assaults. Wait, that actually happened? Fun fact, in his 6th and final crushing defeat, John Bell Hood was utterly routed by his West Point instructor, Major General George H. Thomas.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! You underestimate my power! Don't try it!
We'll all go down to Dixie, away, away. Each Dixie boy must understand that he must find his Uncle Sam.
Hood was relieved of command after this final defeat, but this was too little, too late. The Army of the Tennessee was shattered and would never recover. But Leia was not relieved of command after her many failures. Let's examine Disney Leia's resume. Karen iPhone.
They're right on top of us!
She fails to detect the construction of Death Star 3, resulting in mass genocide in the annihilation of the Alderaan stand-in system. She sends a man who was working as a stormtrooper the previous day to disable Death Star 3's shields and doesn't provide him with an escort. She appoints Rey to go get Luke on the same day she met Rey. She fails to keep the location of the new Rebel base a secret, fails at basic defense by neglecting to build a deflector shield to protect the base from orbital attack. She botches the retreat from the Rebel base, demotes Poe, her best officer, promotes Holdo, her worst officer, to Vice Admiral in a clear case of nepotism, a decision which ultimately proved catastrophic. She gets the entire fleet destroyed, gets almost all the survivors of the fleet's destruction wiped out because her stupid gamble that the First Order wouldn't notice them retreating in small ships because, trust me bro, didn't work. In a strategy straight out of Sunbell Hood and the Art of Losing at War, Leia hurls the last sad little remnant of her brave fighting rebels in a frontal assault across an open plain against a vastly superior force. Her attack has predictable results. The few who miraculously survived Leia's leadership are rescued from the trap Leia led them into only by the intervention of Rey. In a final, incomprehensible act of failure, Leia fails to capitalize on the death of Snoke and the destruction of his battle fleet. After that impressive list of failures, this woman is still in charge of the rebellion. The so-called president of the so-called Confederacy, the rebel traitor Jeff Davis, gave Hood command of the Army of Tennessee against the advice of Robert E. Lee. Davis was what ancient Chinese military theoretician Sun Tzu would have called a shit leader, but even Jeff Davis ultimately understood the incompetence of John Bell Hood and fired him. So why, in the name of John Bell Hood's legs grave, can no one in the Rebel Command see that Disney Leia is a chronic blunderer and get rid of her? The only explanation is that she is a petty tin pot tyrant who everyone is terrified of, which would make her no better than the tyrants she fights. The Disney sequel trilogy is most heavily criticized for its character assassination of Luke, and to a lesser extent Han Solo. Disney's destruction of Leia has been largely overlooked. Throughout all three movies, I never saw Leia, the charming, militarily literate, tactically and strategically competent warrioress. Instead, I was subjected to a doddering old fool who has no grasp of even the most basic principles of military leadership, tactics, or strategy, who often makes decisions based entirely on emotion, and who has no concept of self-accountability. Disney excised Leia from Star Wars as completely as they excised Winona Ryder from that massage scene in Alien Resurrection. Winona Ryder was peak in Alien Resurrection. If you disagree, you're wrong and I hate you. Here's an interesting personal instance of the Mandela effect. I remembered a scene in Alien Resurrection in which Winona Ryder gets a foot massage from one of the crew. Which makes sense, right? She's an android and she's using her sex appeal to infiltrate the crew. Now, if you held a gun to Jada Pinkett's head and asked me who was the actress in that foot massage scene in the 1997 movie Alien Resurrection, I would say Sydney Sweeney, no question. After you executed Jada Pinkett and held the gun on me, I would quickly realize that I had misremembered and that actually the actress was Winona Ryder. But as it turns out, when I rewatched the movie last year, I discovered that the scene had somehow been edited. Winona Ryder had been excised and some random piece of mid put in her place. Don't stand for this disgraceful Orwellian distortion of history by Disney. Protest corporate censorship of art by buying a Bring Back the Winona Cut t-shirt from the Despot of Antrim Teespring store. Like countless Che Guevara t-shirt clad teens of the 90s, you can stand up to the man and make your voice heard by spending your money on a disposable consumer item today. Motherfucker!
Note: the animated character featured on the aforementioned product is entirely fictional. She is an original character named Dolly Braces. She is a creation of the Despot of Antrim and not intended to represent the likeness of a real-life person. Her resemblance to any real-life person is entirely coincidental.
Thank you, Karen iPhone. Now, what was I talking about? The rise of Palpy, for fuck's sake. How I long for the days when Alien Resurrection was considered the low bar for sequels. Karen iPhone, play a clip of Peak Winona first to make the transition from Alien Resurrection to the vastly inferior Rise of Palpatine a little easier for everyone. Rise of Palpatine's score is ghastly. John Williams' magnificent Star Wars canon is reduced to a syrupy greatest hits montage to act as key jangles throughout the movie. The most memorable phrases from his various masterpieces are carved brutally from their musical context and forced into the movie to accompany the many plagiarisms disguised as tributes. I can't play any of the instances of the rape of John Williams' Star Wars canon because it will result in copyright claims. Music copyright on YouTube is vampiric. So instead, here are a few examples of when John Williams' music is reduced to corny key jangles. The appearance of Darth Vader's helmet is accompanied by the Imperial March theme. When Rey enters the second Death Star throne room, the throne room theme from Return of the Jedi plays. When the rebels figure out that the Sith fleet has planet-killing weapons, the Emperor's theme plays. Yoda's theme plays when Force Ghost Luke lifts his X-Wing out of the craggy sea, so Rey can be all the Jedi. The Star Wars theme plays when the People Fleet arrive from the script to save the day. The abuse of John Williams' canon in this way is a feeble, ham-fisted attempt to hypnotize the viewer into a happy feeling feeling of nostalgia. Kylo is boring as fuck in The Rise of Palpatine. He was actually fun in The Last Jedi. In ROP, he bored the shit out of me more effectively than the Greenhouse gang bored the shit from Davis. Kylo runs around like a headless chicken for the first half of the movie, chasing after Rey because some old guy claiming to be the long-dead Emperor told him to. Then Rey sabers him, then force heals him because the plot will need him later. Then Han Solo shows up and says something to the effect of, "You might have slaughtered children, committed genocide, and murdered your own father, but you're alright, kid." But the movie doesn't tell us if Han is a Force ghost or a hallucination because
we don't have to tell you that.
Kylo does not say another word for the rest of the movie. After he throws his lightsaber away, his Rey fever reaches pathological levels. He literally runs to her. The script tosses him aside during the final showdown because this is Rey's franchise and she don't need no man because this movie is made for the modern audience, not sexist patriarchal dinosaurs, right? Kylo Ren returning to the light side of the Force and becoming Ben Solo again is just wrong. This is another example of JJ retconning one of the few good aspects of The Last Jedi. Here is the single best moment in The Last Jedi.
I came to face him, Leia. And I can't save him.
Kylo is beyond redemption. The guy murdered his own father. He's evil. Kylo's evil does not require further examination. It just is. Luke and Leia accepting that Kylo's evil is not some invasive force that can be expunged from his being, but is rather an intrinsic part of him, is a great moment. There is real pathos to Luke and Leia accepting that they failed Kylo and resigning themselves to the fact that he must be destroyed. This moment steers the plot away from the trite prodigal son trope that JJ was going for and toward a darker and more dramatically satisfying trajectory. But JJ didn't like that trajectory, so he did a big, clunky U-turn, and now the patricide who committed genocide and ordered his own mother to be shot on sight is a good guy.
I'm good.
As a symbol of his castration, Kylo throws his awesome lightsaber into the sea, then joins Greta Thunberg in her brave stand in support of whatever the current thing is that week. The other problem JJ creates by turning Kylo soy is that the only bad guy left is a cripple in a Sith retirement home, and that does not make for a compelling final showdown. Like R2 in The Force Awakens and Finn in The Last Jedi, Kylo wakes up once the plot needs him again. His Rey fever now at lethal levels, he finds Rey's corpse and uses the Force to swap energy bars with her. He kisses Rey and dies in an ecstasy of Rey fever-induced bliss. When Soylo brings her back, Rey kisses him because she feels a momentary attraction to him as she remembers the saber-wielding maniac he used to be, before ordering elaborate drinks at Starbucks and taking selfies with his besties became a regular part of his morning routine.
Today I got up around 9 AM. After my shower, I went to Starbucks where I met my pals Noah and Non-Playable Sheep. I ordered a tall half-shot hand-drip, salt-steamed soy venti half-cap, triple ristretto, 1-pump vanilla quart, sugar-free, 2-pump retro hazelnut, steamed milk, dry foam, half-spoon, cinnamon drizzle, 3-quart half-decaf cappuccino. We mostly talked about Jaden Smith's new fashion line, then I got some work done. I feel like I worked for like half an hour, but I totally don't remember because I kind of blacked out during it.
The brief attempt to give Rey an arc is absolutely pathetic. She continues being a massively overpowered Mary Sue for the entire movie. The only time she shows even a shred of doubt about her ultimate importance is for literally 2 minutes when she decides to retire to Craggy Island until JJ's retcon of The Last Jedi shows up to convince her to go clean up Luke Skywalker's mess. In another middle finger to Rian Johnson, JJ has Luke grab Rey's lightsaber and say, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect." While this is vaguely cathartic, the scene oozes hypocrisy. It was JJ who put Luke on Craggy Island in the first place. It was JJ and Kathleen Kennedy who decided that Luke would be a deserter coward who fled to a bird shit stained rock off the coast of Ireland to hide from the world. Rian Johnson's characterization of Luke was a natural continuation of what was presented in The Force Awakens, but in The Rise of Palpatine, JJ pins it all on Rian. Rey's rematch with Kylo Ren is the only good sequence in the movie. It's well paced, takes its time when it needs to. There's no crappy nostalgia slop music. There's no yap yap, no JJ jolts, only the crashing of the waves and the sound of the duel, which complement one another beautifully. Like Rey's introduction in The Force Awakens, Reylo 2 demonstrates that J.J. Abrams is capable of creating compelling cinema. It should be noted that the best scene in both The Force Awakens and The Rise of Palpatine contain no dialogue. At his best, J.J. is a capable director, but he is always a dreadful writer. While Rey was a Mary Sue throughout The Last Jedi, her Mary Sue-isms were not as obscenely overwhelming in that movie as they were in The Force Awakens. But in ROP, Rey is right back to being perfect in every way and inexplicably proficient at everything. Karen iPhone, hit that shit. She floats in midair, surrounded by rocks, which she commands to float around her through the power of the Force. She walks across a tightrope blindfolded while deflecting lasers from a training droid. She defeats the final boss training droid with a stick. She deciphers Poe's intel and begins the MacGuffin hunt. She finds the Sith dagger in a few minutes, a dagger that Luke Skywalker failed to locate despite many hours of searching. She is able to ascertain just from holding the dagger that it has been used for terrible purposes. She beats up a crew of 4 experienced gangsters in a few seconds. Upon meeting Rey, Girlboss Minor instantly gets the same Rey fever that everybody else gets when they meet Rey. She backflips over an approaching TIE fighter and lightsabers its wing off. She force grabs a ship, preventing it from flying away. She shoots 5 stormtroopers in 3 seconds with Chewie's laser bow, a weapon she has never handled before. She sails a skimmer through a tempest to get to the ruin of the second Death Star. Rey is from Tatooine Control CV, a desert planet. She never saw an ocean or any body of water until she left Tatooine Control CV a year ago. She can't swim and should be terrified at the sight of a sea storm. If she ever did sail into a tempest, she would lose balance and start vomiting from nausea within seconds and get tossed into the drink by the first big wave that hit her vessel. Rey has never piloted a waterborne vessel, yet here she sails stern-faced through the storm, expertly maneuvering the skimmer through the giant, crashing waves. Not once does she lose balance, not once is she imperiled. This is like me, an Irishman, expertly riding a camel through an Arabian sandstorm.
I don't like sand.
Yes, Anakin, I'm aware of your aversion to sand. She ascends the interior of the second Death Star in a display of her world-class parkour skills. She almost loses Reylo 2, but then the script uses Leia as a cheat code to make Rey win, because Rey isn't allowed to lose. She saves Kylo's life by force healing him. If only Anakin had figured out how to do this, he could have saved Padme instead of becoming Darth Vader. She pilots Kylo's TIE fighter with total proficiency despite never having piloted a TIE fighter before. She pilots Luke's X-Wing with total proficiency despite never having piloted an X-Wing before. She kills 6 Praetorian guards in 29 seconds. A Praetorian guard's life expectancy when facing Rey is 4.8 seconds. She resists Palpatine's attempt to turn her to the dark side. In a final declaration of her overwhelming power, Rey asserts that she is not merely the last Jedi, she is...
I'm all the Jedi.
She kills Emperor Palpatine, something Luke Skywalker wasn't awesome enough to do. Unlike her, she comes back to life because she isn't just female Luke Skywalker and female all the Jedi. She's female Jesus. She steals the Skywalker name.
Rey Skywalker.
Shame on you for saying what you just said. My God.
The rest of the characters are a bundle of plot devices, diversity inserts, two-dimensional air sodas, and nostalgia bait. The only character in the movie that has an arc is Kylo. His arc is he stops being evil and becomes a simp, whereupon he loses the ability to speak, and that's it. Finn and Poe are now a comic screen duo from a Marvel movie.
They fly now? They fly now!
As dated and insufferable as this humour is now, the duo do at least get to have some fun and do a few things on their own without a woman supervising them, which is a massive step up from The Last Jedi, when Finn was a simp with potato fever and Poe was Davis.
Payday. You deliver a quarter of your snap to Striper here. every week on the dot. Well, you fucking will do next, like.
Lando is nostalgia bait and a plot device. He shows up when the plot needs him. He rescues the crew on generic alien planet, and he shows up at the end to lead the people fleet at the Battle of Agendor.
It's just people.
The best decision J.J. Abrams made with the rise of Palpatine was to sideline Rose, who is incontestably the worst Disney character in the sequel trilogy. See my Last Jedi video for details. In a middle finger to Rian Johnson, J.J. even included a scene to make the exclusion of Rose explicit. Hey Rose, so are you gonna be in the movie?
No, because I fucking suck. Everyone hated me in The Last Jedi, and rightfully so. JJ has written me down to a token character with a few lines.
You won't be missed.
I know.
C-3PO isn't a protocol droid or a translator anymore. His main function now is as an exposition droid.
A hex charm.
A what?
A common emblem of Sith loyalists.
This knowledge has nothing to do with his programming or his personal experiences. How does C-3PO know any of this? There are only two original characters of anything approaching significance. A girl boss and a girl boss. Girl boss Major is a strong, black, empowered, body-positive, ass-kicking girl boss. And girl boss Minor is a strong, ethnically ambiguous, empowered, ass-kicking girl boss. Girl boss Minor created a problem for Disney because the actress JJ cast to play her is hot. And Kathleen Kennedy does not like hot women in her productions. So she came up with an ingenious solution. She put the hot actress in a burqa. She never shows a millimeter of skin, is literally clad head to toe, shoulder to fingertip the entire movie, and is only permitted to show her eyes. Praise be to Allah. Mr. Reflection, would you care to hazard a guess as to the function of Girl Boss Major?
A reflection of myself.
Indeed, Mr. Reflection. She is a ticked box on an ESG report.
I'd wait Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to see a reflection of myself.
Despite being a mere box ticker, Girl Boss Major does have some cultural significance. She was the provenance of the Despot's first ever "Am I right, boys" joke.
The following clip is from a video released July of 22.
But it seemed like casting went out of their way to cast a dumpy, chunky girl in the role, who, despite having a bow and arrow and being portrayed as a huntress, looks like she spends a lot more time snacking and watching Netflix than she does hunting. Unless she's hunting Big Macs and Pringles, am I right, boys? Then there's Zombie Palpatine. He's not really a character in the movie. He's a caricaturish approximation of Palpatine that was inserted into the movie as a plot device and trailer bait. Absolutely nothing about Palpatine makes sense. How did he return?
We don't have to tell you that.
When did he return? Why did he wait this long to announce himself to the galaxy? Why did he announce himself to the galaxy? Why did anyone believe his broadcast was the voice of the long-dead Emperor, as opposed to a 14-year-old messing around with his dad's old DJ equipment? How did he build the Death Star Destroyer fleet? How long did this take? How did he staff these ships? Why did he bury them underground? How has he managed the gigantic logistical operation required to maintain this fleet without detection? Why has he waited until now to unleash this fleet upon the galaxy? Why did he not recognize the dangers of equipping every one of these ships with a planet-killing cannon? Such a fleet would create the conditions for massive political instability. No political entity in the galaxy will tolerate this fleet's existence. A single mutinous captain could cause immense destruction to Empire assets before other ships could stop him. An admiral who fancies himself the next Emperor could lightspeed jump his ship to whatever planet Palpatine was on and kill him in seconds. Mentally unstable admirals could use their ship to destroy planets they personally dislike. A single ship commander can go to a system, hold it hostage for a massive ransom, divvy up the take with his crew, destroy the ship, and take off. Why did Palpatine design ships that blow up when their extremely vulnerable, massive cannons is shot a few times by a small fighter? Darth Sidious is powerful enough to come back to life, but he's not powerful enough to heal himself. Palpatine claims that he created Snoke and used Snoke to build the First Order and train Kylo. If Palpatine had control of the galaxy via his puppet Snoke, then why did he bother building this giant fleet? Palpatine tells Rey that if she kills him, his spirit will enter her and they will become one. She kills him, but then nothing happens. Why doesn't Palpatine somehow return again after Rey kills him? I won't accuse Disney of character assassinating Palpatine because this isn't Palpatine. Palpatine died when Darth Vader threw threw him into the entrails of the second Death Star. This is a nostalgia prop and a Disney villain. Disney's assertion that this dumb cartoon prop is Palpatine is as ridiculous as their denial that they didn't censor Alien Resurrection by removing Winona from the massage scene. This isn't Emperor Palpatine. That's not the original cut of Alien Resurrection. The Weekend at Palpy's plotline is the dumbest piece of story to come out of the Disney sequel trilogy. It starts with a premise so absurd that the movie doesn't even attempt to explain it. In what is now the most infamous example of lazy screenwriting in history, Palpatine's auto-resurrection is explained thusly.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Having established its premise on non-existent foundations, Weekend at Palpy's then makes assertions and introduces plot beats that elicit dozens of questions, none of which it answers. Weekend at Palpy's finishes by contradicting itself when Rey kills Palpy and nothing happens, despite Palpy's earlier assertion that Rey killing him would cause his spirit to enter her body. JJ massacred Star Wars lore for that. In terms of plot, ROP is a series of MacGuffin hunts followed by the Battle of Endor, a plagiarism of the Battle of Endor. For the first MacGuffin hunt, Rey, Finn, and Poe go off to find the Wayfinder, which will lead them to Palpy. But first, they have to get a Sith knife. Palpy sends Kylo off on his third Rey fetch quest of the trilogy. Kylo realizes that Rey's going after the Wayfinder, so now he's in on the MacGuffin hunt too. After the plot has run out of MacGuffins, it jumps to the Battle of Endor. Rey's face-off with Palpy copies Return of the Jedi's throne room sequence. The battle in space between the Rebel fleet and the Star Destroyers copies the battle in space between the Rebel fleet and the Star Destroyers. Finn, girlboss major, and a ground crew's mission to land on a Star Destroyer in order to accomplish some mission-critical task that I've already forgotten the details of, is a rip-off of the mission to destroy the shield generator on the forest moon of Endor. The only thing missing is the Ewoks, because Disney Analytics concluded that Ewoks are unpopular. And anyway, Disney don't need Ewoks to sell merch, because they have whatever the hell this thing is. Get your cone-faced droid today for only $108.97. ROP's geopolitical premise makes no sense. Snoke's death and the destruction of the First Order's battle fleet in the Holdo maneuver should have resulted in a collapse of First Order power across the galaxy. Instead, the First Order is the most powerful political entity in the galaxy, and the rebellion have somehow turned themselves into a viable military force again, despite being obliterated in The Last Jedi. Now, plot holes. Karen iPhone.
Drop it.
If Snoke was a clone, why did the Emperor not create more such clones? He's willing to build a Death Star destroyer fleet, but he won't build a squad of super clones? Burying a gigantic fleet of Death Star destroyers underground is highly impractical, but we're going to give JJ a pass on this one because it looks cool. So Palpy has hundreds of Star Destroyers at his disposal, which he has copy-pasted into existence. Why then does he need Kylo to kill Rey? Surely this is something he could send his vast fleet to accomplish. Kylo needed a Wayfinder to get to Exegol. How did hundreds of thousands of personnel who staff Palpy's fleet get there? And how did Exegol remain a secret after such a massive influx of people from all over the galaxy? Why is Leia still in charge of the rebellion? The opening action scene is almost good through sheer force of popcorn entertainment, but then is ruined by the ridiculous concept of light speed skipping, in which Poe jumps the Falcon between systems in seconds. With every jump, he miraculously lands only feet away from obstacles that would have obliterated the ship had it hit them at light speed. The TIE fighters are somehow able to chase him through his light speed skips, despite not knowing where he went and not having sufficient time to key in coordinates for a pursuit, even if they are tracking him. The sequence also has to take a moment to remind the audience of how unnatural it is to portray men doing a thing without the supervision of a woman.
Yeah, well, Rey's not here, is she?
Why is the smoking hot Carrie Fisher's daughter standing next to a sack of potatoes? Oh wait, that's Rose. Sorry, my mistake. By an astonishing coincidence, Rey is looking through a book about Exegol moments before Poe arrives talking about Exegol, which reminds Rey of the book about Exegol she was just reading. Why does the script bother telling us that the group of Kylo clones are the
Knights of Ren
when they have zero role in the plot? The NPCs of Ren are saber fodder for Kylo during the Battle of Agendor. That's it. The NPCs of Ren are a typical example of a JJ mystery box with nothing inside. How is Kylo able to steal Rey's necklace through Force Tinder? So Kylo steals Rey's necklace, and before Rey and the gang can leave the festival, the necklace is analysed. The First Order send an alert to local troops, and local troops begin hunting down the gang. That's not how time works. It's as if time has frozen on generic alien planet and only unfreezes when the First Order have completed a series of tasks essential to the plot. Lando makes contact with Rey and the crew just as they are being arrested, and
by an astonishing coincidence,
it turns out that Lando was with Luke on this very planet, and they discovered a plot device who was carrying a secondary MacGuffin that will point the crew in the direction of the primary MacGuffin, and
by an astonishing coincidence,
plot device's ship is still in the desert nearby, but Lando and Luke couldn't find the secondary MacGuffin that they somehow knew was in the plot device's ship, which is good because it means the plot can happen now. So the crew need to go to the desert to find the plot device's ship, but some stormtroopers start chasing them. Fortunately, the script places two speeders next to the tent they were in, which Poe easily hotwires in seconds. Both the speeders are blowing up, but fortunately no one is hurt. The entire gang lands in sinking sand, and
by an astonishing coincidence,
this sinking sand leads directly into some subterranean tunnels the crew needed to enter to find the secondary MacGuffin. Rey senses that the dagger has been used for terrible purposes. Why then did she never detect that Luke's lightsaber, which was originally Anakin's, was used to massacre sand people and slaughter children? The crew walk into the plot device's ship and find no impediment to starting it up and flying off with it. An interstellar ship has been sitting in the desert for years with the keys in the ignition, and no one has taken it. The NPCs of Ren show up at the generic desert but don't do anything other than stand around attempting to look menacing. Oh my god, Chewie dies, but less than 3 minutes later, it is revealed that he's actually still alive. What was the point of that? If you're going to do a fake out death, at least wait 20 minutes before revealing that the character is actually alive. Give the audience a chance to feel the grief of the character death. This movie has less balls than a 1994 coming-of-age American drama starring Winona Ryder. BB-8 wakes up a merchandise placement with a cone-shaped head. I've decided to name this droid Coney 20I2 in honor of Coney 2012, the first social media-induced mass hysteria. See my Dread video for details. Coney 20I2 is one of the most shameless examples of merchandise placements I have ever seen. The movie doesn't even bother to justify his presence by giving him something to do. BB-8 wakes him up. There, done. Merchandise advertised. That'll be $108.97. Fucking shameless. Right, Winona?
Oh, yeah.
The crew need a droid hacker to hack C-3PO, so Poe goes to Kijimi to look for him, and wouldn't you know it, he gets held at gunpoint by a generic girl boss plot device who just happens to know exactly where the hacker is. Girl boss plot device will later give Poe a hyperlane token so the plot can continue. She also serves as a feminist rebuttal to male desire when Poe propositions her at the end of the movie, and she tells him no because this is a Disney movie and sexual attraction between men and women doesn't exist in Disney movies. In fact, the only romantic relationship which is portrayed positively throughout the entire Disney sequel trilogy is the brief lesbian kiss at the end of ROP. Unless you were one of the 5 Chinese people who watched this movie, in which case you didn't see that scene because the Winnie the Pooh dynasty doesn't like it. And Disney love nothing more than collaborating with the Winnie the Pooh dynasty. The NPCs of Ren show up again to do absolutely nothing. In another example of disgustingly lazy writing, JJ uses the Force as a plot device.
The dagger's on this ship. We need it.
Why?
A feeling.
He will do this several times throughout the movie. JJ retcons The Last Jedi on several occasions. The least successful and clunkiest example of this is when Kylo tells Rey, "Your parents were no one, they chose to be to keep you safe." Kylo relates to Rey that her parents were a clear-minded, conscientious couple trying to keep Rey from Palpatine, but this completely contradicts what Kylo said in The Last Jedi.
They're filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money.
This was the single best plot element in The Last Jedi. Revealing that Rey's parents were nobodies is far better than the predictable, cliched, try-hard reveal that the hero is a blood relative of the plot.
It's you!
Yeah.
How could you? My own son!
Rey being a nobody also added a bit of psychological depth to a total non-character. Her belief that her parents were somebodies was a coping mechanism she invented to cope with the trauma of being abandoned by her loser alco parents. That's a great bit of character work, and tragically, something many viewers will be able to relate to. But no, because JJ wanted his big, tropey reveal. Rey's parents was JJ's prime mystery box, and he wasn't going to let Ryan ruin it for him, so JJ created the monumentally clankfucular reveal that Rey is Sheevy's granddaughter. Rey and Kylo engage in a lightsaber duel through Force Tinder. Okay, so there are 5 main problems with this. 1. That's not how the Force works. 2. Winona Ryder was hotter than Angelina Jolie in Girl Interrupted, and it's not even close, son, and I'll explain.
They sold you to protect you.
Wait, stop. They sold you to protect you. Let me see if I'm understanding this correctly. Rey's parents sold her into slavery in a desert backwater because they didn't want anything bad to happen to her. There's not even any point in attempting to explain this level of stupid. All I can do is counter it. So here is the Despot's counter to this full retard plot beat.
Upon entering Earth's atmosphere, becoming what used to be called shooting stars.
Hux saves Finn, Poe, and Chewie from execution, then reveals that he is a spy for the rebellion. A man who committed mass genocide and wiped out the rebel fleet is a rebel spy. Karen iPhone.
No! Fuck!
In an argument with Finn, Poe points out that he isn't a militarily illiterate chronic blunderer when he says,
I'm not Leia.
And Finn, despite being in a state of hostility to Poe, compliments Poe.
That's for damn sure.
I will give JJ credit for this shot. This is a nicely composed frame which is intended to show Rey's inner struggle with the dark side. The problem is that the visual does not sync up with the plot. At no point in the movie does Rey engage in any sort of behavior that could be considered dark. In Return of the Jedi, Luke struggles with the dark side. In his first scene, he force strangles 2 of Jabba's guards because they blocked his path. Rey does not commit a single act that could be interpreted as dark in ROP. She is a morally perfect heroine throughout the trilogy. Darkseid Rey is hotter, by the way, but not as hot as Winona Ryder in Stranger Things. Now look, I know she was getting on in years, but hear me out, Winona's body type ages well. Why does the destruction of Kijimi look so shit? When the explosion starts, the planet looks like a cardboard prop. Rose looked like shit in The Last Jedi, and that's putting it generously, but fuck, man. I'm convinced that Kathleen Kennedy made it a contractual obligation for the actress to crawl through a sewer pipe before showing up on set to start filming for the day as revenge for her trying to stand out on the red carpet during the promotion of The Last Jedi. Coney 202 shows up to remind Finn that he's a simp.
I miss her.
Miss her too.
Why does a man with chronic Rey fever need a product placement to remind him that he's a Rey simp? But as it turns out, Coney 202 isn't just a merch placement, he's a plot device, and he has information about Exegol, which allows the rebels to plan an attack against the Sith fleet. R2 gives C-3PO his memory back, and I couldn't give less of a shit because I checked out of this movie an hour and a half ago. We get an exchange between Mary and Finn, which is designed to retcon Rian Johnson's Holdo maneuver. Karen iPhone, reroute all power from the de-uglifier to hypercharge the AI video generator and produce a copyright-free reproduction of the scene in question. We need to pull some hold-on maneuvers, do some real damage. Come on, that move is 1 in a million. While I applaud JJ's attempt to fix Ryan's lore-breaking nonsense, the 1 in a million explanation doesn't work. Hold-on maneuvers either work or they don't. Luck is not a factor. Carrie Fisher's daughter says something, and I apologize for suggesting that she's anything other than top gear. She reminds me of Winona Ryder in Autumn in New York, an interesting examination of love between an old— Oh, shut up, Despot. Your sad devotion to that aging actress has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fortress.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Prior to the attack on the Sith fleet, Finn says, "They have taken enough of us, now we take the war to them." What the fuck are you talking about, man? You've only been at war with the Sith fleet for a few hours, and even if your attack is a complete success and the Sith fleet is obliterated, the First Order will still be out there, raging across the galaxy, and all you will have accomplished is to remove the only military power who can challenge the First Order's dominance. On that note, what do the First Order do in this movie apart from get Rey fever? Which systems are they attacking? Are they trying to find the rebel base? What are their geopolitical priorities? The First Order, which Disney assures us is the dominant military and political force in the galaxy, just disappear halfway through the movie and are never mentioned again. Why didn't the rebels send a scouting mission to the Exegol system before they launched an all-out assault? JJ uses the Force as a plot device again because writing is hard. In this scene, the Force tells Finn the source of a navigation signal.
The nav signal is coming from that command ship.
How do you know?
A feeling.
The rebels launch a cavalry attack on top of a Star Destroyer. I could insult your intelligence by explaining why this attack is to military tactics what Will Smith is to cool, or...
Good.
How is that potato sack able to run while carrying a blaster? Oh wait, that's Rose, my mistake. Palpy tells the last Jedi to strike him down with all of her anger so she will turn to the dark side. She says no, but then he shows this Jedi her precious rebel fleet being destroyed, which causes her to initially agree to strike him down before ultimately deciding that actually, yeah, nah, because I am a Jedi. Now, where have I seen this exact series of dramatic beats before? I'm not even going to bother attempting to explain how dumb the lightsaber fight choreography between Soylo Ren and the NPCs of Ren is. Instead... JJ realizes that Reylo cutting down an old guy in a wheelchair won't make for a great finale, so the script gives Palpy some of Reylo's energy bar, which restores him to boss level. So a gigantic fleet consisting of people arrives, led by Lando. How did Lando recruit them? If these people are willing to fight Palpy's fleet, why did they never lift a finger to fight the First Order? How did Lando assemble such a massive fleet so quickly? What an astonishing coincidence that they all arrived at the exact same time. Oh look, there's Wedge. That's nice, but wait, why wasn't he a high-ranking member of the Resistance? Wouldn't he have been a far better military leader than Disney Leia? Why doesn't every rebel pilot die immediately when their ship fills with Palpy's Force Super Lightning? Why isn't every chip and electronic component on every ship destroyed immediately when they fill with Palpy's Force Super Lightning? Rey defeats Palpy because, in her own words, "I'm all the Jedi." Why doesn't Palpy's spirit enter Rey after she kills him? Finn and Girlboss Major almost get to make a heroic sacrifice, but like all the good guys of even remote significance, they don't die because this movie has less balls than Soylo Ren's latest Lord of the Rings sleepover marathon. Rey does get to make a heroic sacrifice, but she's such a Mary Sue that she can sacrifice her own life without dying. So the rebel fleet return home and celebrate their destruction of the First Order's sole obstacle to ultimate power in the galaxy. No one mentions the fact that the First Order are still at war with them, and that, unlike the rebels, the First Order have been entirely unharmed by the recent conflict. The movie ends with Disney admitting that yes, Rey was a female Luke Skywalker clone.
Rey Skywalker.
Over the course of my last 3 videos, I have thoroughly analysed the Disney sequel trilogy. If you have watched to this point in the video, you're probably wondering which of these 3 movies I regard as the worst. Well,
A good question. for another time.
The Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy opened with a line of meta-dialogue designed to assert that Disney were going to fix the Star Wars franchise that George Lucas had ruined with the prequels.
This will begin to make things right.
The Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy ended by admitting that the movies were shallow knockoffs of George Lucas' Star Wars.
Rey Skywalker.
In the final shot of The Somehow Return of Palpatine, Rey stares into the dual suns in a callback to the iconic scene of Luke staring into the Tatooine sunset. This shot is a microcosm of the Disney sequel trilogy. These suns meant something to Luke. To him, they represented adventure, a life and purpose beyond the confines of a small moisture farm. This moment symbolizes the call to adventure as described by Joseph Campbell in his theory of the monomyth, or hero's journey, a story template that George Lucas followed when he was writing Star Wars. Luke staring into the dual sunset has its roots in the deepest traditions of human mythology. Rey staring into those suns means nothing. She's a tourist here. To her, the suns are nothing more than a pretty sight that would look nice on a postcard. The suns symbolize nothing because Rey has already had her great adventure. The scene is culturally vacant. It is merely a copy of a famous scene from an immeasurably superior movie. It has no meaning. It has no soul. It is a cargo cult scene. It exists solely to exhibit the look and feel of Star Wars. The only change Disney made to the original scene is to remove the man and replace him with a woman.
Who are you?
I'm Rey.
Rey who?
Rey Palpatine.